Hi everyone, this is Dr. Hossein Akbari, and I'm very pleased to talk here in International Humans in Space Summit 2022. My talk is about cancer and space missions. Uh, let's say it's a preliminary report of our work on cancer and space missions. And today I'm just presenting the preliminary results. So I just want to transfer some keynote messages. I don't want to overload you with too much information to confuse you. My goal is that you understand how much the field is diverse and the research gaps are wide. So I think at the end we would understand that there are many rooms for improvement. Okay. For introduction, well, we all know that there are frequent stressors in space that can lead to cancer. So we call them carcinogens. It could be radiation, it could be microgravity, vacuum context, whatever. But even dietary alterations. But we know that possibly radiation or possibly radiation and microgravity are the main contributing factors, at least up to now. Yeah. Okay. About the cancer, we know that environment of the space can promote or exacerbate carcinogenesis, and it has been substantial debate over how radiation and microgravity affect cancer. So the way it affects, because when we study it, there are many contradictory impacts. So in one cancer, it promotes one gene, in the other one, it suppresses an oncogene. And this is surprising. So in one cancer, radiation may cause surprisingly even may stop a cancer. That's even surprising. Okay, but at least one point is very important. Cancer-induced mortality, based on our current data, has not been higher in astronauts than in others. So maybe we can imply that the severity or whatever is not different, or the nature of the cancer. So based on the nature and the complex environment of space, we may need multidimensional research and big funding also. At the end of the talk, I expect you to understand the impact of extreme environment, let's say space here, on cancer development, relapse and outcome, or better comprehend the research gaps and better provide recommendation for enhancing the standard of care for cancer patients. So it's up to you that after that you may think about it for the standard of care. So our project was doing a very comprehensive systematic scoping review on what we know so far from cancer and space missions. Okay, let's say whether it is microgravity and space mission, whether it is radiation, and space mission, whatever, and with related keywords. And we did in multiple databases. It was very comprehensive search, as we will see. So let's go. Okay, let's get back and have a look on this. Okay, we already mentioned this one. Let's get back to this one. Okay. At the end of the talk, I expect you to answer a few questions by yourself. So the first one is, which one of the mentioned stressors could be hazardous, and also new hope for cancer treatment at the same time? And true false, the rate of death due to cancer is higher in astronauts. B, space-induced psychiatric issues are proposed to be a higher factor, to be a risk factor health condition. So basically, the second one is mentioning that space-induced psychiatric issues are proposed to be higher, to be a risk factor for health condition, even cancer, whatever. Okay. The question number 3: which kind of studies are respectively more prevalent, and which are more efficient to better understand the space mission and medicine? So this is another question. Okay, let's go to the methods and materials. So as I mentioned, the goal was to capture whatever we had in the English literature. So we had to choose a very comprehensive search in multiple databases to get as much as we could. The question was, what is known about the relationship between cancer and a space mission, or review question regarding risk factors, symptoms, and pathophysiology, and where are the gaps in this knowledge? And we used Prisma scoping review. The databases that we searched were Embase, Scopus, PubMed, Web of Science, and Cochrane Library. You see the search strategy. We tried to be as much as comprehensive as we could. Inclusion and exclusion criteria are here. As I mentioned, it should be about space mission, microgravity, radiation, related to pathophysiology, sign and symptom, risk factor, and we included original studies and those with peer-reviewed journal. So by this inclusion criteria, by nature, we could just exclude preprints, reviews, editorials, non-English papers, those related to aviation medicine and not space medicine. That's it. And we made a data extraction form, as you see, for extraction of the final papers, and we extracted the final papers in this table, in this form. So study, authors, year of publish, country of origin, aim and scope, sample size, type of cancer being studied, method, study category, and main findings. And also we did an analysis based on it. Okay, for example, when we did an analysis based on the country of origin, we see that just about 9% of studies were multi-origin, and majority of them were a single origin. And as we expect, USA is by far the first one with about 40%, then Germany with 20%, China, Japan, Italy, and unfortunately I can't, we couldn't map Australia here, at least with our inclusion criteria. We couldn't find any paper from Australia. Okay. This is the results. This is our results reflected in flow diagram of Prisma. As you say, about 14,000 paper. We found about 14,000 paper. Web of Science, PubMed, Embase, Cochrane, and Scopus. About 1,000 were duplicated using automation tools. About 10,000 were removed. When we checked for a screening, for title abstract screening, we screened about 3,000 papers, and we excluded about 2,000, so let's say 2,843, and we excluded 2,667. And finally, we checked the full text of 176, and finally, after all checking and checking and checking, 137 studies were selected to be included in our study. We already talked about this. Okay, let's see the year of publication analysis. As you see, from 1990, we had a growing trend overall, but from 2019, it's a sharp decrease, and on 2020, there is almost zero paper, and all over the world fulfilling our criteria, and that's very interesting. I don't know, is it just related to COVID or something else, but that's very interesting. About the sample size, in several investigations the sample size were inapplicable, such as cellular ones, and just a few research on humans and animals mentioned it. I think it's a very important limitation of this of those studies for let's say when you want to have a bigger picture of those studies that may have this one, not just cellular ones, and they don't have clear sample size, not just cellular ones. Absolutely, they don't need it, maybe sometimes. Okay, type of cancer when we analyze it. Okay, let's say the thyroid first with 20%, surprisingly. Breast cancer 70%. Hematopoietic means lymphoma, leukemia 15%. Head and neck 12%. And lung 12%. And the others, the all others 24%. And about methods, we say that about 90% were experimental studies, and just 5%, about 4 or 5% were cold. Just one study was cross-sectional, comparative study 1, in silico 1, target effective modeling 2, theoretical study 3. That's interesting. Okay, let's see the participant of study. You see that animal model were then 16%, cellular in 76, and astronauts in just 5 study, let's say 4%. Mathematical model, it was just 4%, and gene mapping, proteome analysis 1%. Okay, so to make it brief, what we can understand from these results, I don't want to go in details. I just want to mention a few points that we could comprehend from the whole data. We could understand from papers on space mission on cancer. So just review a few impact, especially on microgravity, on radiation, and whatever, which is more prevalent in the literature. So generally, a space travel environment, let's say, all involve factors. It seems that it causes mutation in TP53 and DNMT3A. So some studies show upregulation and some studies show downregulation, surprisingly, in P53 expression. It can also cause impaired cytotoxicity of natural killer cells. Also, it can cause a decrease in tumor growth. About microgravity, we can say that it can cause cytoskeletal and microtubule changes, block cell cycles, prolonged mitosis and decreased cell proliferation, increase apoptosis, suppression of P53 mutant cell proliferation, spheroid formation, and angiogenesis. So some of the impacts of microgravity are in fact anti-cancer. So it brings new hope for cancer treatment. We may do some studies later and later and later for this new possibility. There are still some controversies about alteration of these factors under microgravity, cell migration, mobility, invasion, and metastatic ability. Okay, let's go to the radiation. Well, we all know that even low dose of HZE particles, let's say iron, silicon, oxygen, can lead to methylation, deletion mutation, gene translocation, decreased life expectancy, P53 alteration, and genome reorganization, production of fusion oncogenes, and increased tumor marker expression and tumor development. Yeah, we may know that right now. Also, on the other side, radiation may cause cell cycle disturbance, cancer cell proliferation, decrease in cancer cell proliferation, increase apoptosis rate, and suppress tumor growth. We use some features of radiation in cancer treatment right now. So we can say that the combination of microgravity and radiation exposure appear to be impacted by two factors in an additive and synergistic manner. And it seems that radiation is accounting for more interactions. There is another thing known as hypergravity, and surprisingly, hypergravity increases metastasis rate, increases cell adherence by EGF-induced CFOS expression upregulation and structural organization and cytoskeletal protein alterations. As I mentioned, this study has numerous limitations. Generally, we can divide in 4 parts: sample size, study duration, study design, indicative environment. So many studies didn't mention their sample size, and this may cause low statistical power of analysis. Indicative environment, I can say that well, in vitro studies may not well mimic human body. About the study design, let's say that there was not too much studies with control experiments, and human studies were all mainly without control group and in simulated environment. About the study duration, we could say that duration of study might be too short to observe the desired outcome in some studies. The limitation were estimation uncertainties, lack of addressing epigenetic issue. This is a very important point I want to highlight, and some technical errors. I think some studies had this problem. Okay, let's get back to our questions. So, which of the mentioned stressors could be hazardous and also new hope for cancer treatment? I think we all know that microgravity. The rate of death due to cancer is higher in astronauts. No, it's not. We mentioned this in introduction, and that's a very important point. In my view, space-induced psychiatric issues are proposed to be a risk factor for the health conditions. Well, I didn't mention it, so not mentioned, but it's true, by the way. And which kind of studies are respectively more prevalent and which are more efficient to better understand space mission and medicine, space mission and maybe cancer. Well, we saw that experimental studies were at top, and more efficient, absolutely randomized controlled trial. Okay, thank you for being with me. This is my email, so reach out if you have any question, and I'll be there for you all the time, and it was my pleasure to talk with you today. Have a good time, and bye-bye.